Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast, where each week we speak with brands, icons, innovators, and trailblazers within the fly fishing industry, exploring both the successes and failures they've encountered along the way to become who they are today. But first, if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast or joined our email list, please do so by going to the flyfisherinsiderpodcast.com, or you can also find us on Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. Now let's begin. Today is Kristen Mustad. Kristen is a passionate fly angler who founded Nautilus Fly Reels. Nautilus is considered one of the world's best fly reel brands. Nautilus continues to push boundaries in both style and function with every reel made. Nautilus is a global player in the reel market and is well respected by many anglers. And today, Kristen is here to tell us more about Nautilus. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Definitely excited that you're here. Why don't we just jump right into it? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started into fly fishing?
So I was born in Norway and grew up all over Europe, really. My dad was a consultant, but we'd spend every summer in Norway. And I mean, first memory of fly fishing was probably at age 5. I remember rowing a boat and taking turns with my cousins, trolling a fly. So, I mean, we weren't real big, but we were rowing a boat out in some mountain lake while everybody else was fly fishing the rivers. I still remember it was like a yellow fiberglass rod and some old beater reel. But that's how we started, trolling with a sinking fly, going after trout.
Mm-hmm. So absolutely, that's when your passion, you would say, began at that young, early age?
Yeah. And I mean, I did a lot of bait fishing and bobber fishing and stuff like that in my younger years. And I still do once in a while. I like to get offshore and pull in some bigger stuff. And, hey, sometimes, the situation requires that you don't use a fly. Just like sometimes, these bait anglers look at you and scratch their heads wondering, how does this guy fly fishing kick our butt when it's supposed to be a lot harder to catch the fish? But that's just the way it goes.
Absolutely. And when did you come to the United States?
I came in 89 to study, do my college, and been here on and off since then. Was away for 5 or 6 years between graduation and coming back. It's been many years.
And were you fishing during the college years as well, like fly fishing particularly?
Yes, I was. I studied in upstate New York, and we had, not too far from the Salmon River. I remember it was an hour and a half drive, so we would go up there and fish for steelhead and brown. But we had creeks down in town that would have, fish running into them, and then, little lakes with bass and stuff. So I did fish all the way through college.
Awesome.
I never really stopped fishing.
No one ever does. Where are you based out of now? Like, where's home base for you exactly?
We are in, I'd say smack dab in the middle of Miami, but we're a little north of the Miami city limits, even though we're within city limits, but we're pretty much right at the edge of it. Where all highways meet, and it's a great spot to be at, but traffic sucks.
So traffic always sucks. So where would you say your home waters are? Where's your home waters around where you're located?
So here, I'll tell you what, my home waters in my heart are still trout country. It's my favorite. I guess it's because I have the salt here. So I still dream of trout and I still consider it my home waters. Actually, up until I moved to Miami, I could say that every major life decision was made on the trout stream, because I think, I see my wife does yoga and I have friends that do yoga, and they all say that, oh, you should meditate and do this and that. I'm like, man, that's what I do when I fish, really. That's what I think. Because if, that perfect cast for dry fly, the trout's going to take it when you least expect it. It's not when that fly lands perfectly exactly in the spot. No, you're always off somewhere else when the trout actually takes that dry fly. So
that's true.
But as far as home waters, physical home waters, it's Biscayne Bay in Miami and the canals and stuff around Miami. I do a lot of nighttime tarpon fishing because I can get out of work and go do it. Usually it's with clients, they come through town. They come to a factory tour, we do dinner, get on a guide's boat and go jump a few tarpon and come back. And it's a great time. Mm-hmm. The Biscayne Bay is a lot more challenging fishery, but I'd say it's probably one of my favorite saltwater destinations just because the bonefish are big and they're challenging.
Kristen, you said every major decision has been made while fishing or on a trout stream. So when was the decision for you to start up Nautilus and what entitled in that? Like, walk us through that.
So I'd set up a little technology consulting firm and got a partner in. That didn't turn out too positive for me or the company, I'd say, and ended up selling off the remainder of my shares to that company and had to serve, I think it was 6 months or so in there. And my last week at work, I picked up the Miami Herald because the week before I'd figured out that there was a fishing section in the Miami Herald every Thursday. In the sports section, there was a one page on fishing. So I went in there, and that last day before last, so it was Thursday before that Friday that I was leaving. I don't remember the exact date, but I opened it up and there was a story about this fly reel manufacturer that had been out fishing with Sue Cocking, the reporter for the Herald for the fishing part. And I read it and I said, man, this guy seems tired. And so I shot him an email and had a phone call 10 minutes later. And it was the guy that had Old Florida Fly Reels, talked it out and, partnered with him. And a year later, took over the whole business. That was pretty much how it went.
What year was this exactly?
2003.
So 2003, you took
Yeah.
over a year of working with a partner, and then you took over
Yeah.
the business.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to talk, like, how else did you guys get started? Like, how did the company become to what it is now? Like, obviously through hard work and perseverance, but walk me through that. Like, how was your focus specifically on that older brand, the Florida Fly Reels, or did you change the name?
So the minute we got in, or I got in, I sort of looked, and I mean, it didn't take me 2 months to figure out that we were broke, that the whole business model that I bought into was flawed, and that the reels were too cheap. It really wasn't the product I wanted. It was like a poor man's Able. I mean, they were, great functional reels, even for that era, but we needed something brand new. And this guy said he had some super reel invented. It didn't work. So it was like, hey man, do I just shut this down right now or do I reinvent everything? And we went the reinvention route and designed the Nautilus Reel. And I think September that year, we launched the Nautilus Reel and landed our first big account, which was Kaufman Streamboard. But since then, it's just been,
Wow.
fast forward. The first few years, we were sort of the underdog. Nobody paid much attention to us. And then, and I don't know, it must have been, 5 or 6 years flying under the radar where we got a little foothold and suddenly we were there, and I don't know. I mean, for years, I remember, always showing up at these trade shows and not even thinking that you'd ever get an award because the big boys always got them, and suddenly one day you wake up and you're like, hey, whoa, what's going on here? We were the first guys to put a red drag on the reels. And I just wanted to have the Brembo brakes of reels, right? So I wanted to have that red backplate on it. And so that could be seen just like the red brakes on a car, like the Brembos. Now, I mean, they're all colors. But I think nowadays you cannot find a reel that doesn't have a red brake on. I mean, you can, but most fly reel manufacturers put red brakes on or brake covers or whatever. So it's pretty funny to see.
What was your main focus when you look back at the early days of the brand? Like, was your focus just to try and get traction or just get market share, or was it like quality?
Early on, I think it was, we looked at it and we're like, oh man, there's going to be a Nautilus Reels private jet in about 1 year. And then, reality kicks in. And I mean, it's like all, startup is you find something you want to do and it's all rocking, and then you're faced with reality. It's not as easy as you think it is. A lot of stores didn't want to deal with a startup reel brand, but we fought through it. It was more getting in the door. I learned early on, sending out loaner reels for people to try is the worst idea you can ever have.
Why is that?
Because, fly shops aren't out there looking for a new reel all the time, right? And so when you hit them with a new reel, they figure, man, I got to take something out of the case that I've been selling for 5 years to put this in, right? Because it's not just, oh, let's add another reel line, because they're not endless pockets of cash that these guys have. And so when they get these reels, they look at them, and the first thing they're going to do, if you're not there selling them on it, is, hey, let me find out why I don't need this reel in my case. And so they look at it, trying to find flaws, convince themselves they don't need it, and send it back. But at least they've touched it. And now when a customer comes in and asks for a Nautilus reel, they can go, yeah, we had him in, we really didn't like him much. Well, what didn't you like about him? And they'll say whatever they want to say, because at that point they've held it, and that's,
that's all they have.
That's all they have. But so,
yeah.
And the consumer's going to buy that, right? But, I always say our best sales tool is the reel. If a guy gives it a fair shot, we're in. And but if you just send stuff out to try because you can't afford to travel out there, it's a bad idea. You'll get more nays than yays, many more.
That's such good advice for anyone that's thinking about, that's sitting at home like, hey, I got a reel company or this company or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And they're sitting there thinking, and that's advice, years of advice coming from a master in the reel business.
yeah,
So
no, and I'll tell you, it's you better off spending your time visiting the shops close to you, then go a little further as you can afford. But word spreads fast, right? Especially when you're in a destination like here, where people come from all over to fish down here. So if the local stores have it, eventually people will come in contact with it, and they will spread the word.
absolutely. What else was your focus, would you say, in the early days before we got off topic there?
So first it was making a really good fly reel, right? I'm going to make something. I really didn't think of making it better than anything because I really didn't know. I'd never really looked at a reel and looked for flaws in it. I just bought what I liked. And then
Yep.
as you study the different reels, like you've never studied them before, because now you got to look at competing with them, right? You say, man, this is real simple. What can I do here? And it's like, man, I'm just going to make the best reel there is. And that's it. And I'll give you the perfect example. We put carbon fiber in our reels. We were not the first ones. Jack Charlton started that. Loop had that in their reels. Sage had a reel with carbon fiber drag in it. But the big game fly fishing crowd was using cork,
I
and
remember that.
but cork was like what there had to be. And so we said, okay, we can do the carbon fiber because it's so superior to anything cork is. I mean, cork was used in the 50s in car clutches. That's where this whole deal came from. And yet it's still being used, and people were still back in 2000, people were talking about space grade aluminum or space age technologies, and it's like, hey man, space age was in the 60s. We got to get with the program here. But what we did, we said, okay, we can go carbon fiber, but we need to keep the cork in it. And so we did the CCF drag, which is cork and carbon fiber,
Yep.
where the cork is an underlaying mat on the carbon fiber, and it has the properties it really has is that it lessens vibrations and it's, I don't know, vibration absorbing, shock absorbing, compression absorbing, whatever you want to call all the benefits people have for cork. But the reality is it was just a heat insulating mat so the carbon fiber wouldn't warm up the drag plate, which had bearings in it. And those bearings, if they got too hot, then the oils and greases in them will melt out, and then your bearing runs dry, and then over time it could bust them. So, but we could have done that. The glue that we used to bake everything together is a heat insulator. So, I mean, we didn't need the cork, but the purpose was, hey man, let's get a reel out there that's got cork and carbon fiber, and let's hope that the big game guys say, well, it's got cork, so it's got the best of both worlds, right? And it worked.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you guys went left on that and it paid off for
Yeah,
you. I,
yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So the focus, I mean, back to the whole the question
Yeah.
10 minutes ago, is the focus has always been on trying to build the best reel that we can build, and it's got to be the best out
Well, I
there.
think you hit home on that for sure. I want to ask you, like, what are some of the roadblocks or
Yes.
challenges that you faced earlier on, or you might currently still be facing within the business? I know you touched base about. Sorry to jump in here, but you touched base about sending the sample out to the shops. Is
Yeah.
there anything else that you guys faced?
Yeah. That did not work. I think the biggest roadblock in starting a business in general is money, right? You think it's going to take you 3 years to get to whatever mark. It's going to take you 9. You think it's going to take you $50 to get to a certain point. It's going to take you 150 or 200. That's the way it works. And I think, cash is always it's always maybe not a roadblock, but it's
Yep.
always something to consider. I mean, we look at, hey, should we bring in 3 more machines? Because, production is behind. We could ship a lot more reels if we had them. People are waiting for reels. But the reality is, okay, if I put 3 more machines in there and we get into tight times, one, I don't want to turn them back to the banks to finance them. And two, I'm going to have a hard time paying for them if the market goes south. And we had a recession in 2009, 10. It hit everybody hard, but we were able to maintain all the employees. And it's something that I've always kept an eye out for, where, hey, we're growing, but we're growing at a safe pace, every day trying to keep up with market demand by making reels smarter.
Fantastic. Yeah.
That's the thing. But so roadblocks, getting turned away from shops, I think is the really big one. I don't, also getting the correct sales reps in the different territories. That's a big, it's a big deal. You could sign up with a guy that just costing you money, and when they're getting a percentage of every sale in that territory, and you're talking to them and they're telling you that they're hitting the road and they're not, it can backfire on you.
Interesting.
Because you're paying for somebody for a job not done or well done. Or and then I'd say, the other one that's challenging, that's much harder to identify, is shops that sell against you. And by selling against you is, hey, they've got you in, but they really use you to push the other brands they have. But they've got you in because everybody asks for them, and they say, oh yeah, we've got them, but hey, we like these reels. That's something we face to this day. And we've got accounts that are big accounts that we've shut down because of that.
Now,
Where suddenly, we realize that, hey man, these guys, they're pushing against us, yet they're still selling because people insist on it.
just to touch base on that a little further, because for those that
Yeah.
don't know or that may be listening, like, what would a shop's benefit for that be? Would it be another kickback or a better point ranking system with another brand, or why would a shop do that?
So I'll tell you. I mean, one thing is sometimes some reel manufacturer will have like spiffs where, hey man, for every 10 you sell, we'll give you guys a free reel to the shop employees,
Mhm.
right? Other times it's the brand the guy behind the counter prefers. And I think it's always great to ask the guy at the fly shop, what do you like to fish? Because he can explain exactly why he likes to fish that reel, right? And I mean, if I go into a fly shop and ask a guy about rods, for example, I'll listen closely to this guy and what he has to say
Mhm.
about rods. And a lot of times it's going to be the one that he likes. It might not be the right one for you. And I think that applies much more to rods than reels,
Yes,
right? But but you got to take it with a grain of salt, and it's so hard because I'm not going to knock the guy, because I also try to win over the guy behind the counter,
of
right?
course you do. Yeah, yeah.
But like I said, my best sales tool is the reel, and because it works, I have guys that have told me that say, hey man, I travel the world and I fish Nautilus because I know it's never going to fail. And I've had reels that have taken on water that have started sounding funny, but I've never had a catastrophic failure of a reel. The reel's never blown up.
Mhm.
And I always get the question, has anyone ever blown up one of these reels? And it's like, no, it's never blown up. Has a reel come apart? Well, the guy didn't screw down the spool well enough, or whatever screws were loose after he switched it from left to right. Those things can happen. But as far as the system not performing, no.
Exactly. So why wouldn't someone want to push that as a, you know what I mean, as a tool? Like, and there's all that information out
He
there.
might not like it. He might not like it.
Wow.
He might like the looks of one reel better than the other.
It,
And I appreciate that. And that's why we have so many different
mhm.
cars out there.
Yep.
I mean, there are cars out there that, buddy will show up and say, hey man, check this out, man. And I'll look at it and say, whoa, what is that, man? Why'd you do that? But it's a matter of taste. And I'll tell you what, honestly, there are very few reels out there that are pieces of crap. Most reels out there today perform, to the level that the average fly fisherman or the majority of fly fishermen will require it to perform.
Mhm.
But I still believe that we still make the best reel out there.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. With that said, what would you say your biggest challenge you currently face is as a brand?
Balancing output with demand. I think it's always been our challenge. We've been behind the ball on production for the longest time. We've slowly been outsourcing parts to other companies in the U.S. To manufacture for us, just so we can focus on critical parts that are much harder to do, that we
Mhm.
really have to do in house, or bigger parts that would just be cost prohibitive to do outside. And that's how we're able to scale it. But I'll give you a perfect example: the featherweight reel, or the FWX, which was a big
Yeah,
time
yeah.
seller, and we got a lot of people pissed off that we discontinued it. Man, it was such a great reel. Why did you do that? And the bottom line was, we were so backed up with those reels, where we'd have triple the demand of what we could even produce. We were so backed up with those reels that we said, okay, I need to reinvent this reel and make it so I can build 3 times as many in the same time for the same price. Because one, it's a price point. Two, it's performance. aesthetics, right? And so we went in there, and just because we've learned so much and we continue to learn, we took all the best components that we could get into this reel and took all our machining experience and put it into this one product that some people say is, man, it's better than the NV. I like it better than the NV. And the reality is, it's not that it's better than the NV, which is our high end reel. It's just, it's the best reel we could make at that price point with the knowledge and technology that we have in hand. And that's why we made it. And that's why we made it to that price point. Could I have charged more for this reel? For sure. I think it outperforms every trout reel
Mm-hmm.
out there by 100 times. I mean, it's so well built, and I think it's really well thought out. There's so many little details on it that are there for a purpose. Everything is there for a purpose in that reel. Most people don't even know about
Yeah.
it. And we've actually talked about putting up videos talking about all the aspects, all the little details that people may not even notice on reels. There's a reason for it. But challenge is production. How do we overcome it? We make them smarter. Every time we bring out a new reel, it's smarter. It's built better. It's built faster.
Mm-hmm.
So by decreasing the assembly speed, we can focus those dollars, because it's going to cost me the same to be able to keep the price point. So I can take those. If I can make 3X's in the time it took me to make one FWX, hey, I've got a whole bunch of money left that I can invest in components. Or maybe I'll spend more time machining another part that I couldn't do before because it would be cost
Yeah.
prohibitive, right? So all that adds up. You know how many dollars you have on the table to deal with, and you got to spread them out to the best
It's
thing.
kind of funny though, because the X is aesthetically beautiful as well. It looks like everything, like I never knew that story, and I've done my homework on this on your brand is, and I never knew that was the reason why. I own some FW. I own quite a few of them, and they're fantastic. And I always wondered why the discontinuation, but now we all know, and it's just phenomenal. And I don't have any X's yet, but it's just yeah, it's such an aesthetically beautiful reel, but better technology has gone into it, is what you're saying.
A
A
lot
lot
better.
better.
Yeah.
And I do agree, like for
Yeah.
trout reel, hands down. Couldn't agree more with you. So with that said, I do have to ask, why do you think this, why are you top of the game in your opinion in the reel market for both like globally and for saltwater, freshwater, trout, everything? Like you guys are top. Why would you say this is?
So I think, I mean, I want to add a little asterisk on that one. And I think we're top as far as product goes. I think dollars or volume we might not be, but I think we're top because we don't give up. I mean, my brother always used to say, "Rust never sleeps," and I think that's the case here. I mean, we every time I sit down and design a reel, and the guys start building it. Few weeks into the manufacturing process, they'll come to me and they say, "Okay, Kristen, you got to stop tweaking this thing. You got to decide at some point that it's done."
Mm-hmm.
Because if you keep tweaking it, because you always figure something cooler out as we go, we'll be making this thing for 10 years. And that's sort of the deal where, hey, we never stop innovating. It's just at one point you're coming up with ideas and you're putting into a product, then you have to draw a line and say, okay, all the next ideas are going to go into the next product, not into this
You
one.
know what? It's again, I agree with that because you guys have those advanced technologies, and let's talk about those technologies for a second here. Like, what is the technologies that you put into each reel, and as well as the quality control? Like, walk me through that. Like, how do you create this technology, put it in there, and test the reel? Like, is it a setting out in real life? Is it a shop setting? Tell us.
So right now, I mean, we use materials that others don't use, like our bushings. It's a really expensive bushing. It costs more than our stainless bearings that are made in the US. But for the application, it's a better product. It's lighter. There's no corrosion. There's no swelling. It's just, it's a far superior product. And that's what we use in the X and the CCFX2s, which the CCFX2 also has bearings. Our seals, for example, that's made out of a top secret material. It's like a, you know, mini micro windshield wiper that actively pushes water away. That's why we call it the active seal. And we don't have
Wow.
the machinery to make these. This is not like a plastic little seal that we buy by the 10,000s. This is something that we have another company in the US machine for us out of this super expensive material.
Mm-hmm.
And they've tried to, I mean, lately, people are starting to follow. Before, everybody would seal with an O-ring, and an O-ring is a seal that's sealed when when nothing's moving. But the minute you move it, the O-ring's slipping, which means it's losing contact, which means water can get in. And then when you stop moving it, you put it inside your closet. And no matter how long you dry it for, the water's going to stay inside because it's sealed. And when you got that water inside, you're going to start getting corrosion. Our little seal, people have started to copy it. It's just not the same material. And so until you get to that, you can't mimic it. And we've learned so much on these seals. I see other guys that have started making similar seals and the mistakes they make, and I just say, hey, it's not going to work.
So you already know that then?
Because we know, oh yeah, right off the bat. I mean, we saw a reel come out now with a finish, and we spent 4 years testing Cerakote on the reels. Cerakote is a ceramic coating they use on weapons.
Interesting.
It's a massive failure. It doesn't work. We spent 4 years doing it, yet
it didn't make it.
I just saw one launched. No, but I saw another, a competitor of ours come out with a Cerakote, coated reel. I'm like, oh God, good luck.
Huh.
We have, right now we've been testing for about 3 years, proprietary form of anodizing that we're working on with an anodizer out of Michigan. And I mean, you can take a key to it and push as hard as you want and scratch it, and it's not going to do anything. You wash off the wear on the key from the face of the reel.
Wow.
The issue we have, and the reason it's taken so long to figure out if we can launch such a thing, is whether we can get it to be less labor intensive and make it cost efficient so we can use it as a coating. Because if we can't eliminate a lot of the handwork, we cannot implement it into the system and offer it as a color option, because we'd have to charge an extra $500 to get that coating on there, which makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, we keep looking for that very, very, it's not just, I mean, I see other companies, they'll come out and they bring out a new reel and, it's new cutouts, but they've had the same drag system for 20 years. And you're like, you scratch your head and you go, why do people even buy into this? Right.
And that's the question, right? Why do people even buy into this?
I don't
when the technologies are out there. I mean, do you want a 20-year-old car with roll down windows, or do you want something that's newer and advanced?
Painted a different color. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what I say is always this is, you could, if you want to, you look at a brand new Mercedes S550 and you go back 20 years and there's an S500, right? And you could get both of them brand new today. And one of them is going to cost $100 more than the other. Which one are you going to pick? You'd be crazy to pick the 20-year-old model. It doesn't have AC.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even if it's maintained and it's got 0 miles on it and they've been keeping it like brand new, the new car has all the technologies, the braking technologies, all that stuff that's there. But I don't know. I don't get it. But people still buy them.
So let me ask you this. Do you guys this is my own curiosity, because I'm so into this. Do you buy other people's competitors' reels and just take them apart and look at them and just strip them down and say, hey, like this is good, this is not good? Like, is that what you do for
So you can, sometimes you can chuckle, and that's always a good moment. And other times you go, that's smart. Why did he do this? How did he come up with this?
Interesting.
And then you sort of, scratch your head and you say,
yeah,
why didn't I do this? Or, how can I do, I can do this better, which is typically when you open up a reel, it's what you're looking for. It's something to improve upon. It's like patents, right? The reason the patent office issues patents is to make your patent public so people can look at it and build on it. Not to knock it off, but to build on it, to invent new stuff. And so that's why I look at other reels.
Let's talk about new stuff. I mean, without giving any secrets away, I'm sure you guys have some prototypes or some stuff that's, because you're so advanced with the technology compared to the competitors. You probably have some reels that we haven't even seen or heard of yet, sitting in your office somewhere under lock and key. Is there any technology that you can tell us about, or anything that's coming in the ways?
So what's coming in the ways was a reel that we launched, or that we announced 2 years ago.
Okay.